thank you for joining us this week. I know we are tired. It's been a long week, especially for you with school. But I want to welcome you to the third session of our summit, which we are calling Jumpstart. And I really want to thank those of you who tuned in last week. These sessions have been really great so far, and I love how they've been flowing. There's been so much knowledge, but not just from us to you, but I feel like you are imparting knowledge on myself as well. There's the questions in the chat that we get and the questions that we get at the end of the sessions. Those things really inform how we go forward in terms of providing these kind of educational tools to you. I love the sessions. There's so much participation. I want to thank you for your participation and engagement as well. If you were not able to recall anything from last week's session, or if you were here, you can view it on our YouTube channel. It's up now. I made sure that it was available this morning. So we are about to get into today's topic. I'm just about to share my screen. Nice. Good. So as I said, today's session is called the Jumpstart, and this is where we start to really delve into the aspects of financial literacy. Last week, we touched on tips to help you build a financial future by providing you with some small tips and talking about the development of your personalities as well in terms of identifying your spending and saving habits. But today, we are all going to talk about what financial literacy entails, what it takes, and what the rewards are. So the objectives for today's session is to understand the concepts of saving and budgeting, and probably provide you some tips on saving and budgeting as well. We want to give you the tools so that you to learn the fundamentals of money management, what it means, and how you manage your money wisely, especially at your ages. And we also want you to learn what your financial goals are and the importance of them and how to set them. And as I mentioned before, I'm so thankful for the participation that we would have had over the last 2 weeks, but I really want to encourage you to continue to interact, engage, and participate with us in this session. So feel free to post your questions in the chat at any time. You can use the raise hand feature or any of the reactions so that we can all think about how to be as engaging as we possibly can be. I know these virtual sessions can be a bit, tiring because we all miss connectivity, we all miss liming with each other, hanging out, and meeting up with friends and etc. But we're trying our best as possible to be as safe as we possibly can in this very difficult time. So as with every session, we want you to start thinking about certain questions in terms of the narrative going forward. We want you to think about what it means to save something. We want you to think about the importance of saving. We're going to give you some tips so that you can learn how to save, how you build the habit of saving as well. And we're also going to talk about the financial goals. So think about these questions as we go forward. And given everything that we've been talking about within the past 2 weeks, this really sets the framework for financial literacy. So I want to ask you a simple question. Do you think you're financially literate? Anybody can answer.
Yes.
Sure, tell me why.
I think I'm financially literate because I know exactly how to save and how to spend, and when it's time to save and when it's time to spend.
Good. And that is essentially what financial literacy is. It really is about just looking at how you go about spending and saving your money, but we get into the definition of it later. So again, like with every session, we're going to have a bit of an icebreaker. So we're going to play a short game, very short, and this one is very easy. It's called Would You Rather. I'll present you with 2 different choices, and you should indicate your preferred option and possibly state why. Just to be a bit engaging, we'll ask why at some points in time. I don't want you to answer both or neither. I want you to fully commit yourselves to making one of these choices. I know it's really easy to say, well, I like both, or I would want to do both. But I feel like I've developed some really tricky questions here for you all, so you'll have to choose one. Some of them may be nice, some of them may be gross. I'm not saying no, but I just say we want you to be as engaging as possible, right? So the first question, would you rather be a famous rapper or a famous singer? Anybody?
So I'd rather be a famous rapper.
Tell me why. Why would you prefer to rap over sing? Is it that you don't know if you can sing? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Amisha, see your hand is raised.
Yes, sir. I rather to be a famous singer
Why? You like rap?
because I literally sing Indian songs and it does go down very easy but kind of hard. But the rapping thing does go real fast, so that why I don't get the point in rapping.
I'm inclined to agree. I love rap music myself, but I can't rap to save my life. So don't even ask me to think about starting to rap. All right, the next question. Would you rather smell expired milk or smell rotten eggs? Have you all ever smelled either?
Yes, sir.
Which one you did?
So I smell actually both, but more smell rotten eggs.
Which one you would prefer to smell?
None.
I would try to agree myself. I remember one time when I was younger, I wanted eggs for breakfast and nobody was home, so I said, I'll do it for myself. I didn't even check the egg to make sure whether it was good or not because you know that you can't do that, right? I didn't check it and I cracked the egg in the pot to scramble it. And the smell that came out of the shell, worse yet, when they started to cook it, I turned off the fire one time and I had to leave the room for a moment because it was just so disgusting. It's really, really, really bad. Really, really bad. And I've smelled expired milk as well. I don't know how people keep cartons of milk in the fridge for so long because it's something. So the next question: would you rather be a wizard or a superhero? I find this one interesting. Sure, Amisha, go ahead. Let's see your hand raised.
So I rather be a superhero to save people.
You don't think a wizard can save people too?
No, sir, that is only do magic.
What if the magic can help somebody? Diamond, what about you?
Well, I will be a wizard because I want to cast spells and learn how to do it and also help people.
Oh, good. So you see the benefits to both. Great. The next question: would you rather take a vacation to any state in the US only, meaning that you can only go to the United States, but you can go anywhere in the United States? Or would you go, oh, that's an error. It's supposed to be Caribbean. So would you go to the US or any of the Caribbean islands for a vacation? Sure. Go ahead, Amisha, your hand was raised.
Yes, sir. I rather go the US because some countries and some parts of US very nice that I would like to go.
Okay. Have you visited a Caribbean country at all in your life?
No, sir. No.
Wow. Okay. Maybe you should think about it. Once things come down a bit. Diamond, go ahead.
I would rather take a vacation to a Caribbean country because their waters are totally crystal clear and blue and it's so nice.
And I mean, we are all Caribbean people at the end of the day. I would love to experience another Caribbean culture. I've traveled to a few places over the course of my adulthood, and I really want to start to go back. I miss traveling. That's one thing I miss with the pandemic. I miss traveling. So great, good. Now, would you rather have a mansion or a private jet? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I rather have a private jet, sir.
Why?
Because you can fly by yourself, have nobody, you can fly by yourself.
Very, very good at that. That's one of the benefits of the private jet. I've never been on one. I would love to own one. I would love to be on one myself. Go ahead, Diamond.
I would rather also have a private jet. You know why? Because a mansion can go anywhere and a private jet anywhere. Like a bedroom and everything is inside there.
I love that every week you all just keep telling me how smart you all are. You're really thinking about these things. I love it. Christian, what about you? Would you rather have a private jet or a mansion?
So I rather have a private jet because every day I could go and explore a new country.
Very, very good. Exactly. I love traveling myself, so I would have the private jet as well. A house is a house. It's a home at the end of the day, but Traveling is really nice. I'll let you all know that for sure. Now with school, would you rather go to school for 4 days a week for more hours, so it's about 10 hours, or would you go to school 5 days a week for 8 hours? Think about this one. Yes, Diamond.
Neither, because they both add up to 40 hours.
What about you, Amisha?
So I rather go none because I don't like school.
Remember, one of the rules of the game is that you can't say both or neither. You had to choose one. It's a life or death situation. You had to choose one. Yeah,
So I make it fair. I go take the first one, go to school 4 days a week for 10 hours.
so you'll have more time to rest, right?
Yes, sir.
Would you rather have a pet dragon or a pet unicorn?
So I rather have a pet unicorn because they're nice and it have a if they actually have a horn in front. So.
You don't believe they have horns in front?
So I rather have a pet dragon so I can fly all around.
Ah, you don't think a unicorn could fly? They could float in the air? Would you rather be able to slide down a rainbow or jump on a cloud? I found this one interesting. Amisha, your hand is raised.
Yes, sir. I rather jump on a cloud to feel how fluffy it is and how high it is from the ground.
Diamond, what about you?
I would also like to jump on clouds because a rainbow, you wouldn't really go anywhere like any water or anything. But yeah,
Okay, good. Christian, what about you? Would you slide on a rainbow or jump on a cloud?
So I rather slide on a rainbow to see what it is, which part I end up.
Right, because you've always heard about the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? I want to know what's at the end of the rainbow too. All right, great. Thank you all so much for participating. And I'm really happy that you all would have answered some of these questions. I know some of them may seem a bit, but I'm glad that you all were able to participate there. So as we start to think about today's session, we want you to think about how you feel about your financial realities as well as your financial futures. Start to think about what it means to you, what the future looks for you, what you hope to achieve, and what you need to do to reach those dreams. And I'll paint a picture for you here. Education has been something that's always been really important to me. I've wanted to be as educated as I can, whether it's formally or informally, for most of my life. As long as I've known myself, I've always seen the value in education. And education just doesn't mean go into a class and sit down. It means just learning about different things. So you want to learn how to play an instrument, or you want to learn graphic design, or you want to get theoretical knowledge, which is just getting the knowledge about different topics. I've always been interested in learning. Learning has always been something that's really important to me. I knew that I needed to make good grades when I was in school to get into university. So I put in the work to do that. I never once asked my parents or never even thought about how we were going to afford university, because I had the expectation that my parents would have saved up enough for this when I reached the age of entry for university. And I didn't put any efforts or motivation behind saving up for it, because again, I had the expectation that they would do it. And I want to use that story going forward, because that story in itself really talks about how you start to become financially literate. So I'll break down the story as we go forward. So when we think about that goal of education, we have to know that we have to save money to get to it, right? And we started to talk about saving last week. We started talking about what it means and what it entails. And we said that saving is simply putting away something of what you have for later use, especially when it comes to your money. We also said that saving takes three major things, and that's commitment, meaning that you have to motivate yourself to do it on a consistent basis. It takes discipline, meaning that you have to have the motivation, and that motivation builds the consistency to make it a habit. And also the concept of delayed gratification, which is, again, just the act of resisting the impulse to take an immediately available reward in the hope of obtaining a more valued reward in the future. And that really is just the excitement between getting something now as opposed to something in the future. So we talked about what saving is and what it entails and what some of the concepts of saving are, including the fact that the amount saved is important, but it's also equally as important to get into the habit of saving. And I want to ask you, Since we talked about what saving is, can anybody tell me why it's important to save? Yes, Amisha, go ahead.
So, well, I would say saving is important because of how life is getting harder and your parents have to work even more hard and it's always motivating you to get an education. And if you save that time when you already get your education and you have to go and look for a job, you have enough money to go and look for that job. So that is why I would say saving is important.
And let me tell you, that is exactly why saving is important. So if we could see here all of the things you would have said, all of it takes into consideration. It's important to save for a variety of uses. You can save for emergencies, you can save for any unforeseen opportunities, and also to reach financial goals. So Amisha would have identified that you want to get a job, you want to be able to afford clothes to go to your new job, you want to be able to afford transportation to reach a job, and even to the interview process itself. And it's really important that you start to think about why you should save and start to think about setting goals for that. Remember, I said at the beginning of the session that a part of this session today is going to focus on how we create those goals. So we started to talk about saving, we started to talk about what it means and why we should save. Now tell me what some things that you can save on. And if you remember our first session, we had a lot of goals that we had in mind. And I want you to scroll back. Tell me some of the things that you can save for. Yes, Anisha.
So you could save to finish your studies in university. You could save to further when you're going for a job. You could save to buy a house. You could save to buy a car. Well, basically that is it.
Yeah, Diamond, you have suggestions as well?
Yes, you could also save to give back to community. You could save for your wants and your needs, and you could also save to travel to another country.
Ah, I see. You see, and you're rushing this session because you said two words here that we're talking about later today. You see that term wants and the word need? We're going to touch on that a bit later. So yes, you can save for things like university or education. You can save for things like travel or vacation. You can save to open your own business, to purchase a car, a home, to have money for a rainy day, and you could save for anything under the face of this earth. So in the first session, some people said that they wanted to go to university, some people wanted to open farming businesses, some people wanted to own somebody, I think it was Christian himself, wanted to open a business in Dubai. And of course to have savings. And I love the fact that Diamond mentioned giving to charity as well, because that's something really important to me and the credit union movement by extension. If you throw yourselves back to the first session as well, where we talked about the cooperative principles, principle number 7 is concern for community. And we really are invested in giving you the tools to become, especially as young people, giving you the tools to become financially healthy, not just now as a youth, but when you become an adult as well. So when we think about concepts of saving, we think about money management. Now tell me, what do you understand by the term money management? Yes, Diamond.
Money management is basically like its name, managing money, like putting it as in a budget.
Oh, you're using some nice terms there. Yes, Amisha. You wanted to contribute as well?
No, sir, don't bother.
Okay, no problem. So that's exactly what it is. Money management really just means how you go about your spending and your saving. What you do is you take a look at the things you spend money on, you take a look at how much you spend on those things, and you also watch how your money comes in. And next week's session, we'll talk a little bit before we go into the youth forum about what the term income and expenses mean. So stick around for next week, obviously. Money management is very consistent, it's cyclical. And cyclical just means that it's a constant cycle of coming and going, coming and going. So money comes in, money goes out, and if when you have an income, money comes back in, right? It's a comprehensive look at how you use it. And comprehensive just really means it focuses or it deals, it treats with all or nearly all of the aspects or elements of something. So a question, knowing the definition of money management, and of course, given all the things that we've discussed over the last 2 weeks, do you think you manage your money well? Yes, Amisha.
So I don't think I just manage money properly.
Tell me why.
Sir, when I get money, I just think of going in the shop to buy something. Think about putting away for a dress or something like that, sir, shoes or something.
Ah, I'm glad that you identified those things because we're getting into what we call goals very shortly. Christian, what about you? Do you think you manage your money well?
No, sir.
Why? You like to go in the shop too as soon as they get money?
Yes, sir. Just can't wait.
I know it's very tempting. I know it's very tempting to get this stuff. But we're going to give you some tips and we're going to give you some tools because just like saving, it's easy to set sensible rules to manage your money. But also, just like with saving, it can be a bit difficult to live by those rules. And I want you to think about the parents and the elders in your lives. They, including us at Antilles, all the elders in your lives are constantly teaching you about money management, whether you are aware of it and whether they are aware of it or not. As young people, you tend to pick up on traits and habits, and you figure out just by looking at how your parents use money or the people in your life use money, you figure out when you need to put money into savings. Or sometimes when you can spend it responsibly, and whether you plan to shop or whether you plan to save, all because you had those role models in your parents and the adults in your life. So we're going to give you some tips to manage your money. So the first tip is essentially not to spend more than you have. We mentioned this now. Christian said it very well. He does what or they want to go in the shop one time and buy a kiss cake or a goodie or something. Or Amisha, I think it was Anisha, she said she wanted to save money for a dress. It's tempting to buy every single thing that you want. You want the pack of caramel popcorn, you go and buy it. You want the kiss cake, you go and buy it. You want a new phone, you ask mommy for it. You want a new game, you ask daddy for it. And at the end of the day, we know that buying those shiny new toys and making those purchases, while they can be fun, sometimes they are very impractical, meaning that they are not necessary at the point in time. And at the end of the month, it brings two things. It means you have less money, and sometimes it can mean headaches as well, because you would have spent this amount of money to get this certain thing, not having the vision, the foresight, or not seeing the future, not planning for your future, to know that you would need to have money for something such as an unforeseen circumstance. And your financial reality is really and truly the balance in your savings, not just the ones in mommy or daddy's wallet, because you as a person yourself, as a young person, you have a duty and a responsibility to yourself to know how to use money. And we are trying at Antilles to give you these tools and to help you understand these concepts from as young as we possibly can. And once you save, I guarantee you that you can afford all those things for yourself in the future with the money that you end up earning and saving. And remember, using the story of me going to university, I had the expectation that my parents would save my education, so I didn't put any efforts towards saving. So what I did when I got money, I spent it willingly. Diamond, you have a question?
No, so but I like to say is that when persons spend too much on something that is unnecessary, they end up taking out many loans and getting themselves in debt.
You see, all they continue to show me how all is smart because all they using the terms and the concepts that we were talking. That word loan, I'm very happy that you use it. It is the truth. A lot of people oftentimes get into debt because they don't know how to manage their money. Because they don't teach these things in school, but that's why we have these projects and these programs, because we really want you to understand that you don't have to be in chronic debt, meaning that you don't have to be in debt for the rest of your life. It really is just about knowing how to spend your money and how to manage your money. And we know that saving in itself and that discipline, it requires consistency. With that in mind, we want you to also think about planning for the future. Always, always plan for the future. And that just means that you have a goal, you have a vision in mind, and you have to work towards getting towards that goal. And again, remember, I said we're going to talk about goal setting in today's session. We're going to talk about it very, very soon. If you want that I mean, she used the dress she wanted to buy. You know you want the dress. You know you have to save for the dress because it's easy to go and say, "Mommy, I want this. Daddy, I want this," etc., etc. But you feel so much pride in yourself when you're able to afford something. So she knows she wants the dress. She knows she don't want to ask mommy or daddy for the whole thing. She might say, "You know what? Let me save a $5 this week. Let me save a $10 this week," and etc. When you find the best option, you start saving towards it. And even if you ask your parents, your grandparents, your uncle, your auntie, and then anybody, that concept of a loan, you can think about it from as early as your ages. If it is, you want it and you want it now, but you don't have the money to do it now, but you get consistent savings, think about saying, you know what, mommy, I want this, using the concept of the dress. Mommy, I want this dress. Buy it for me, but I will pay it back. Whenever you get an allowance or with the money from your grandparents, or however you get the money, you just take a portion of it and you give them back. So you have a record. You give it, you pay the money every month to your parent, and that's the concept of what a loan is. And using again the experience of me going to school, because I didn't do any kind of research behind saving and because I didn't have those conversations with my parents, I just assumed that my goal of education and my goal of learning was the only goal, not knowing that there were aspects about reaching that goal that I didn't think about. Yes, Amisha, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, sir, I just wanted to say that how I think I am still not the person who does be saving because of how your parents still have to go and work very hard and have to stay there all 7 o'clock and thing in the night, now coming home 9 o'clock and things. So them just be giving you the money. You don't know what them does be going through at the end of the day.
Exactly. And that is why it's important to start to understand these things from an early age. And I'm glad that you understand that the parents have to work very hard to make the money that they have to be able to give you the money and to be able to give you things in life. Because at the end of the day, that's all, that's to me and to us at Antilles, that is the true goal of money. It's used for a purpose, but it's also used to build your financial health and build your health as a person, because we all need money to survive. We all need to purchase things. And again, we're talking about wants and needs in a little bit. We learning all of this context. So thank you very much for your contribution there. So the third tip we want to give you is to prioritize your wants and needs. And prioritizing really just means that you work on things in a specific order. You put those tasks in a proper sequence, or you think about how you want to get it, and that sequence or order, it produces results quickly and efficiently. And it's an important step in the process of setting your financial goals or any goals in general, because it plans how you are able to use your money to the best of your ability. It's important to prioritize your goals. Why? Because we have an unlimited number of wants and needs, but oftentimes we have limited resources. So we know we want a lot of things in this world, but we may not have the necessary funds to get it. We know we want to travel, we know we want to go to school, we know we want to own a car, we want to open a business in Dubai. All of those things take money. So when you think about the process of goal setting, which we talked about just now, we start to allocate different things. So we'll pause there. Now, somebody mentioned the term wants and needs, and we have the definitions here. A want is something that you desire, but you can live without. But a need is something that's necessary for survival. Thinking of those definitions, anybody could tell me some of the things that you could classify as a want? Yes, Diamond.
Like a new dress, jewelry, multiple cars, and all of that at once.
Oh, okay, good. What about you, Amisha?
So, well, to be honest, the things I would want is to be a CEO in an office, right? One, I would love to own cars. Two, I would love to own my own private jet, my own yacht, my own cars, my own land, my own company.
Okay. Look at all of those goals that you have in mind. I'm glad that you are here because we are giving you the tools to meet those goals. Now, we talked about what is our want, and somebody mentioned a new dress, but a new dress is actually, well, technically, it's a need, because a need is something that's necessary for survival, and that means clothing. So what are some other needs? Anybody could tell me some other needs, things that are necessary for survival. Yes, Amisha.
So, food.
Yes, very important. Diamond.
So shelter.
Nice, very good. Yeah, shelter.
And education is also a need.
So
Uh-huh.
I think water.
Mm-hmm. Good, good. Anything that's necessary for survival. Amisha, you had something else to say?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, I see your hand raised. So I just wanted to be sure, right? So thinking of that concept of prioritizing your wants and needs, using the example of me wanting to go to school, because I had the goal of education in mind, I knew that I had to put in the work academically to meet the goal. So I started to get into study groups. I did all the past papers I possibly can, and I made sure to put in the work to be able to meet that goal. So we start to look at how we save, and the only way to truly start understanding saving is just to start. Now, the concept behind saving is that you save first and you spend after. Because if it is that you say to spend first and save after, chances are when you finish spending money, you have nothing left at all to save, right? Saving is really a type of discipline that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to develop. And once you get the hang of it, oftentimes it becomes second nature. And this is not to say that adults have all the tools as well. As much as as much as we at Antilles are imparting these tools and giving you these tips and these tricks and having these really nice, wonderful sessions, it because of the way life goes. Remember, we talked about what ifs last week. Because of the way life works, sometimes things may happen, and we are not able to dip out of pocket and spend to meet these unforeseen circumstances. So you dip into your savings, so you apply for loans and etc. But again, the concept of money management is really just about how you go about using all those things. So we have some tips here for saving. Anytime you get money, put away some of it in a safe place before you spend money on anything else, using the concept of saving first and spending after. And whenever you get unexpected money, so think about when you get the birthday gift from your grandma, you get $100 in a card, or you get an extra allowance if you get an allowance, or maybe your mommy say, you know what, you did a good job cleaning the kitchen today and your room, and you've been doing really well in school. Here, take a $20. Put a portion of it into what towards your saving, and then think about how you store that money and where you store that money. Then you look at allocating some of those monies to things that you want, but also keep that set of money to save, right? And that's exactly what budgeting is. Somebody mentioned the word budgeting before. You could tell me what you understand by the term budgeting. I think it was Diamond. Was it Diamond?
Yes, sir.
Right. What do you understand by budgeting?
Budgeting is like prioritizing your money. Like an example is by writing down how much things you have to like spend on like a bill. You write down how much each bill is amount, and you check up how much money you have and how much the bill is coming up to, and yeah, and whatever money you have left, you can spend it or you could save it.
Good. And that's essentially what budgeting is. It's really the process of creating a plan of how you use your money. And creating this plan, it allows you to determine in advance whether you are able to do the things you need or you would like to do. It's really and truly all about balance. Amisha, see your hand is raised.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to ask a question, right?
Oh,
About need. When you say need and wants, right? What gas in your car be a need when you have no money and you have a little savings? And you would need the savings to put gas in your car to
Yeah.
reach wherever.
Oh, exactly. That's a really good point and a really great question. So a car is, some people may see it as a need, some people may see it as a want. I see it as a bit of both. We have a very robust, robust is a big term, but we have a functional transportation system, public transport. We have the bus, we have taxis, and etc. But it all goes back to safety. I can use my experience as an example. I bought my car a couple of years ago simply for the fact that I wanted to feel secure. I loved going out with my friends, and I loved being able to visit the schools that we go to outside of the pandemic. But we loved going to the schools that we are in, and a vehicle was one thing that offered me the opportunity to do those things. However, if I was to travel, and I did for many, many years, to travel to go and meet my friends, to travel to the schools, to travel any and everywhere, it didn't provide me with as much safety and security because the money I would have been spending to travel, I can put towards gas. Now, as you said, and as we mentioned earlier today, we have those things called what ifs, those unforeseen circumstances. So sometimes you may need to dip into your savings to do it because you may say, oh gosh, I only have $20 in the wallet, $20 not going to fill up the tank. Maybe I need to dip in the savings, so I need to use my debit card or I need to withdraw money from somewhere else and use it. So it really is about learning and understanding where you presently are, what you presently have, and what you want to do and need to do, and really just take a look at what it is, assess it, meaning look at it from all aspects, and then carry forward with the best possible option. So thank you for that question. It was actually a really great question. Thank you so much. Now, when we think about the definition of budgeting, we talked about what it is, and it really is all about balance. Now, when we think about why it's important to budget, it's important to determine how much money you have to spend, how you want to spend your money, and how to spend your money in the future. It's also beneficial for you to learn to live on an available income. And again, next week we talk about what income and expenses mean. But most importantly, budgeting helps you to stay out of financial trouble. It gives you the plan of how you are able to spend your money, save your money, and essentially use your money wisely. A trick or a tip to budgeting is to keep a budget planner or a spending diary. And it doesn't need to be any big fancy tool. Let me show you. This here is my notebook. I've been taking notes. All you can do is you can write down every single purchase that you have. So you buy the dress, you buy a shoe, you buy even something as small as a kiss cake or a caramel popcorn or cheese sticks. You write it down, you write the amount to spend on it. You also head it up at the top with the amount that you have. And what that does is that it gives you a viewpoint, it gives you a picture of how much you have started with, how much you spend on, and at the end of the period, whether it's a month, a week, or however long you want to do it for, it gives you a real picture of how you use your money. Somebody had a question? I hear the mic unmuted. If not, we could just go on. Good. And one of the key tricks to budgeting is that document, that budget planner, or that spending diary, you should keep it in a place that it's easily visible, or you can find it easily, so that you can track how you use your money. Now, as I said before, saving can be difficult. We know that saving can be difficult. We are not taught how to save, and it's not something that, it's instinctive to us per se. I feel like nobody in this world automatically thinks about saving money. They always think about spending money because of the nature of the money, right? The first step to getting through the challenges to saving is to reach out to a money mentor. That's where Antilles comes in, because remember, one of the tips for building a financial futures that we talked about in session 1 was to find a money mentor. And our mission in the YDP is to equip you, or to give you the tools with the concepts of financial literacy in mind. And those tools are necessary to understand financial management from an early age. And we try to break it down into as bite-sized information as possible, because some of the terms, as we mentioned here, some of the terms can be difficult to understand and can be confusing. Those concepts, those terms, those ways of thinking, all of it can be a bit difficult. It can either be too simple or too difficult to understand. And we oftentimes think that something as simple, for want of a better term, as saving $1 a day, it seems easy. It's just $1, right? But the discipline, developing the discipline to save that dollar every day is what is challenging, because it's just $1. It's nothing. It's here, neither here nor there. All of those things you may be thinking, but to save that dollar today, tomorrow, the day after that, the day after that, whether you do it 5 days a week or 7 days a week, saving the dollar every day, the habit of it is what is challenging. And apologies, we could look at that information and link it back to my story. So when I got into university and I sat down and I had a conversation with my parents, it was a very big step for my maturity, not just financially, but as a maturing into a person, as an individual. I sat with them and I said, okay, well, I got into university. I put in the work to get into university. How are we going to afford this now? And the response was that we don't know. And we could never fault them for it, because at the end of the day, my parents, for example, using the example, My parents would have spent a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort into making sure that my brother, my sister, and I were clothed and fed. We had a good education, and they made sure that we had as much things as we possibly can. And oftentimes, if we look at the current experience of society today, expenses oftentimes trend in a particular direction, and that direction is up. Within the current context of the pandemic, we would have seen a definite need for readily available funds. People may have lost their jobs, they may have reduced hours, they may have lost and gained another job at lesser pay. And those things have really affected their financial health because you see things like increased job loss, you see things like increased prices in the groceries and even at pharmacies. And we see that those who didn't have savings set aside were basically put in a more difficult position to afford those basic amenities. So we want to equip you with some tips, just 3 basic tips and tricks for saving. And the first is essentially piggy bank or cash ban. Just 1 quick minute. Right, good. Back. I just have to get up to get the prop I have, right? So the piggy bank or cash ban. This is my piggy bank or cash ban. And as an adult, as someone who is older than you all, I can tell you that this is very helpful. What I do is I just take some money and stick it in the bottle, whether it's at the end of the day, at the end of the week, or at the end of, well, I'm going to use the day and the week. At the end of the week, I deposit a certain set of money into this cash ban here. At the end of the month, what I do is I take that money, I count it up, and I do point number 2, which is to really and truly put it into your savings account. And as members of Antilles, you already have a savings account. So I want to encourage you to do this. You could take, this was a jar of jellies, jelly beans, I think it was. The label is faded. Or you could even use an old peanut butter container or a tin of Ovaltine, anything that you can really store bills in or even coins. Save it, put it in every day or every week, and at the end of the month, count it up for yourself and then deposit into your savings account. And of course, I'm going to advocate for you all to do it at Antilles, right? And the most important thing to saving is to be patient. Developing the discipline, developing the habit and the mentality of saving, it can take time to build. It's not something that we've said it over and over today. It's not something that comes naturally, and it's something that even most adults have to get the hang of. It's a continuous work in progress, and it requires things like personal motivation. So I want to issue with a challenge. I want you to start thinking about how you're going to save. So I gave you the tip or the tool to use your cash ban. I want you to practice saving for 30 days, and I want you to practice saving $1 per day for 30 days, right? You can use the 30 days itself, or if you want to do 5 days a week or 7 days a week, and leave it up to you. But the challenge itself is pretty self-explanatory. The amount may seem small, it's just $1, right? The goal is to save $1 every day over the course of the year. So you start with the month. You know you're saving $1 a day, which is at least $30 for the month. When you save that $30 over the 12-month period, you end up saving over $300. And by New Year's, when you have that money, you've completed the challenge. So think about the concept of goals. You think about your goal is not just to fill the cash ban. Your goal is to fill the cash ban, but it's also to meet this challenge of saving $360 to the end of the year. And then once you deposit that in Antilles, you will get dividends on it, because at the end of the day, we're throwing it back to the first session where we distribute dividends, the surplus that we will get after all of the business activity. That is how you enable your money to grow. And the savings itself may seem insignificant because it's just $360, but you wouldn't believe how much just those $100 stashed away can actually impact your quality of life. This challenge, this saving challenge, I call it the 30-day saving challenge. It can help you stay prepared for things when they pop up without damaging your financial health. And it's easy to follow, it's affordable, and it really adds up over time. But if you want to challenge yourself a bit further, I want you to try the 52-week challenge. So just like the 30-day saving challenge, it's not complicated. However, it presents differently. We know that there are 52 weeks in a year, right? Yes, I hope that we do. We know it has 52 weeks in a year. So at the end of the first week, you save $1. At the end of the second week, you save $2. At the end of the third week, you save $3. So the amounts themselves are small. But I can tell you, when you start to think about the money that you would save at the end, so at the bottom there, you save at least $1,378. Once you save the corresponding week, the amount of the corresponding week, so at week 20, you'll save $20. At week 50, you'll save $50. And once you add all those savings upon each other, so from week 1 to week 2, you add in 1 to 2, so you have $3. And at week 3, add in 3 and 3, which is 6. So you see how money, you can use it to build the savings that you have. And then again, once you deposit it in Antilles, you will get dividend on it on your shares. The difference here is that you save on a weekly basis rather than daily. But be careful for both challenges, because it can be really easy to forget to save that money, whether it's on a weekly basis or a daily basis. And you end up losing the discipline that's necessary to save. But all you do is you really just go back, reassess, and you think about how to meet those goals, right? So in the concept of setting saving goals, we know that saving is more meaningful when they are connected to life goals. And when we think of the word goal, I don't want you to think about football. What do you think of when you hear the word goal? Yes, Anisha.
So when I hear the term goal, I just think about short-term goals and long-term goals.
Oh, perhaps you're ahead of the curve, Phil. I want to let you know that those terms itself, we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. Yes, Diamond.
Well, when I think about goals, I think about like the goals you want to achieve, or like anything, like go to school or anything like that.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it is. Saving goals are the milestones that you set for your money. You know that you want to get something or you want to achieve something, so you put in the work to do something. It's important to set goals because goals give direction to making plans and taking those actions. When you identify and you prioritize those goals, it allows you to create a step-by-step plan for how you go about life. And a goal can be anything under the sun. It could be financial, it could be educational, but we'll talk about that shortly. Your financial goals, however, they should be specific, they should be realistic, they should have a time frame, and they should definitely imply an action to be taken. Now, we as adults know that as young people, as children, being told to save without any explanation, it can seem overwhelming and it can seem pointless because you have the money, I need this thing or want this thing, why not just spend for it? What we try to do as the adults in your life is to help you know and understand what it is you want to save for, and we give you the ways in which you can break down those goals into manageable actionable items. If you want to buy the video game, or if you want to buy the dress and you get an allowance each week or each month, or if it is that you tell mommy or daddy, I want to be able to work for these things, we really try to help you get a picture and to help you figure out how to use that money to purchase the things that you want. We look at, especially at Antilles, we look at how long it would take you to reach that goal based on your savings and advise you correctly. And don't be alarmed, it's normal. It's normal. It's normal for goals to sometimes change. And if or when they do, you'll be able to adjust your plans, especially after having gone through this process of the summit. We'll give you and provide you with enough tools. And we're always available to either contact us and talk with us to see how best we can meet those goals. Now, goal setting is a process. So the first step is to identify your goals. You think of some things that you would like to achieve, and you can place them into certain categories. So I have 4 main categories here. I have educational goals, personal goals, financial goals, and recreational goals, meaning that things that you want to achieve that is just for your pleasure. So if it is you want to play cricket or you want to dance or whatever, all of those things, you take a look at it. They can be anything under the sun, anything you want to achieve. I knew that I wanted to go to school. I knew what I wanted to do as a career. I knew that I wanted to own my vehicle. And a cool trick to identify your goals is to use like a vision board. if you cut out pictures or you write them down on something that's easily visible and you focus on those things that you want to achieve, you identify what those things are. And after that, what you do is you prioritize them. When you prioritize them, again, it's putting things in order or sequence to give the best results. Once you've identified those goals in different aspects, you choose what you believe to be the most important goals from each category. So because I knew that education was really important to me and I needed to go to school to fulfill that goal, education and learning was priority number one. I knew I had to put in the work academically to do it, and I did. If we think about some of the other goals that I had, we can see that this was the most important of them all. So because I knew what I wanted to do in life, and because I knew what I wanted and I wanted to own my vehicle, all of those things filtered into getting an education, because the education would allow me to get the job would allow me to get the car would allow me safety and freedom to go where I want and do what I needed to do. Now, when we think about setting and prioritizing those goals we've identified and we've assigned the priority levels, we've assigned the importance behind it, we establish a time frame. So we talked just now about short term, medium term, and long term. And that's really what it is. You think about establishing a range, whether it's more immediate, so roughly about 1 to 3 months. At short term, you look at probably 4 to 12 months, which is medium term, and anything over an extended period of time is what we call long term, right? Um, I knew that it would take me 7 years of studying to meet the requirements to get into university. So I would have left primary school, I would have gone into secondary school, I would have written CXC at the point in time, would have written my exams, and then I went into sixth form, which is CAPE. And then at that point, at the end of CAPE was when I knew I would have made the requirements to get into university. And I also knew that my university study would be at least 3 or 4 more years. But because I put no energy into saving and I used all my energy into making good grades, I didn't know how much or even how long it would take me to save for my education. And that's because I didn't allocate my resources correctly. Now that you've identified and you have chosen the most important goals and you've ascribed the time frame to them, you look at what you could be doing to work towards meeting that goal and what resources you would need to achieve them. You look at your most important goals and you brainstorm. You start to think creatively about the steps that you can take and whatever you need to achieve those goals. You think about what you can do to work towards those goals and what you need to achieve those goals. So you think about your personal resources, whether it's whatever abilities you would need, whatever skills you have, how much time you would need, and if you would need education on certain things to be able to fulfill that goal. But you also look at your external things. So things like money, you would need to know if these things need to be financed. You think about things like transportation, whether I would need to use the public transport system or if I have access to a vehicle through my parents or auntie, uncle, nan, and anybody. And any specific tools that you would need. So going back to the aspect of education, you would learn specific things that you would need to know or do to be able to meet those goals. And because I had the expectation that my parents would save my education and I didn't put any efforts towards saving, because I saw education as the goal, I put in the work academically to meet the goal, but not thinking about the financial part of it. I didn't see anything else other than studying hard, and I didn't think about the other necessary resources. But now that I have them, especially now that my sister has a baby of her own, I'm able to impart this knowledge that I'm giving to you. I'm able to give that to her as well, for her to be able to prevent what happened to me from happening to her daughter. Because as an uncle, one of the most important things to me is that my niece is set up in the most comfortable way for her future. And that's essentially what goal setting is. You have the goal in mind, you have something you want to achieve, you know you want to do something. So you use these steps to identify and allocate and you prioritize and you think about your resources and you think about how you're going to meet those goals. So this is a template here that we've used to identify and prioritize those goals. We've established the time frames and we've allocated the resources. And now this is a clear picture of how you set a goal and how you can use this format itself to shape and explore your goals, whether it's financial, whether it's educational, or anything that you would think about. We clearly identify the things we want to achieve. We establish a period for when we can reasonably achieve it. We identify what we would need to do to meet these goals and quantifying it, meaning assigning numbers or numerical values to it. We identify those things and they show why it's necessary to meet the goals. And once you use this tool, whether it's the table itself or everything that we will have talked about today, and this template, it's not just for financial goals, as I mentioned, it's also for anything in life. Once you use this tool and you practice it regularly, you will begin to see and you'll understand how you can achieve all your goals because you have a clear picture in mind of what you would need to do and how long it would take. Good. So as we wrap up today's session, I want to encourage you to think about all of the things that we would have said, not just in this session, but the previous sessions before. So as like with every session, I want to make sure that we're paying attention, right? So we know what it means to save something, but tell me why it's important to save. Anybody? Yes, Amisha?
So I think it's important to save because you would always have, in order if you do not have food, you have money put aside for food, you have money put aside to put gas in your car, you have money to go to work with. And so something I've learned today about saving that I have never known was that at that time I had $5 and I told my mother that I wanted something in the shop. So she told me no, and that time I got sad, but today I actually learned why it always has something called save.
I am so happy that you said that because at the end of the day, we are not doing this just because we want to seem like we know what we're talking about. We want you to understand what your reality is, and we want you to understand how you can do these things for yourselves as well. It's not to say that you'll be completely independent, meaning that you are self-serving. As young people, you are dependent on your parents to do things. You don't have things like income, you don't have things like salaries, you don't have consistent, for want of a better term, money coming in. But we really want you to be able to understand the money that you do have coming in, whether it's from an allowance or from a gift. We want you to be able to start to think about the concepts of how we use that money. So I'm really glad that you brought that point up. Thank you very much for your contribution. I'm glad you're learning something as well. It's really important. It's really important. Good. So tell me, what are 3 things that you could save for? We talked about them in week 1 and also in this week here. Yes, Amisha?
So I could save for university or education and to travel for vacation.
Very good. Yes, I want to see your hand was raised as well.
You could also save for an emergency and for also financial needs.
Good, good. Krishna, what about you? What are some of the things you think it's important to save for?
So I go purchase a car, home or a yacht.
A car or a yacht. I love these goals that you all have. I do. So we talked about some of the tricks that you could use to build your saving habits. Anybody could remember one? Yes, Amisha.
So one trick you could use is actually the trick I would think about is having a positive mindset, not a negative one. Saying that how you can't reach this, you can't do this. So I would say having discipline.
Very, very good, because it goes back into patience, and patience is one of the things that we talked about. Yes. And what about you, Diamond? I see your hand is raised.
You could also plan a budget and keep going with it and don't stop.
Very, very good. Very, very good. And we just talked about the 4 steps to goal setting. Anybody could remember? We get one from each of you. And if you can identify it in sequence, if you can identify it in the order, it'd be good. Anybody could remember? Yes, Diamond.
Identify a goal.
Yes, identify. What's the next step? Go ahead.
The goal setting process.
The goal setting process involves identifying. It involves, yes, Amisha, let me see if you have the answer.
So you want the 4 steps, right?
Yeah.
Well, I have not, no, don't spend more than you have.
Okay.
I have to always plan for the future.
Okay.
I have prioritize your wants and needs.
Oh, okay, good. So those are the tips to start to think about setting a goal. So great, I'm glad that you paid attention. But before steps are identifying your goals, prioritizing your wants and needs, establishing the time frame, which is the short term, long term, or medium term, and allocating your resources. So thinking about what it is you need to do to achieve those goals. Great. I'm so happy that you all have been listening to this session. I'm so glad you all have been so participative. Do you have any questions to me at this point in time? Yeah, I see your hand raised, Amisha.
So, well, my question was actually, when you actually have when you take out a loan in the credit union, right?
Mhm.
When you take out a loan in credit union, right, and you don't actually pay out half, right, and you don't pay out the whole thing, will they give you back your money or not?
That's a really good question, a really important question, because it involves an aspect of understanding what it means to apply for a loan. So when you apply for a loan with Antilles, I use Antilles as the example. When you apply for a loan with Antilles, your savings, which is your shares, it's what we use as collateral for your loan. And it's just a form of security to say we are lending you this money. We know that you have savings, but we are lending you this money so that you wouldn't be able to touch the money. You wouldn't be able to deplete the money that you have. You wouldn't be able to withdraw it, or like you wouldn't lose your savings. If you pay off half and you still have the half of the obligation left to pay, right? Um, we have two ways in which we can get back that money. You can continue to make the payment, which is always what we encourage, because again, we never want you to think about the fact that your savings would ever be depleted, because throwing it back to the first session, once you're a member, once you deposit money into your savings, you're a member and you have that savings for life unless you touch them. The other option, which we don't advise, is to do what we call a liquidation, meaning that you use the current savings that you have to pay off your debt. We don't advise that because we really and truly are interested in having you and your parents understand why it's important to save and why it's important to use the services correctly. So the short answer to your question is you would not get your money back. We are going to try everything we possibly can, to be able to have you meet this obligation, whether it is we talk to you and see if we could reduce the repayment, or we think about extending the period of the loan as well. And those concepts are really big and might be difficult to understand. But just in terms of answering the question, there are things that we can do before we use your savings to clear your debt. So that's a really great question, and I hope it answers it. Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Excuse me.
Yes.
If you have $10,000 in shares, how much money would you get for a loan?
Okay, so with Antilles, right now we are giving up to twice your shares, but that's on an adult basis. On the children's accounts, in the accounts in the YDP, we give only up to the value of your shareholdings, because we're really and truly, again, trying to educate you and your parents as well on the concepts of savings. So we're only able to give on the YDP accounts up to the value of your shares. However, for your parents, because they have things like steady incomes, and they have things like, or suppose, or may have those things, we are able to extend the period or the amount that you can borrow up to twice the value of your shares. So you'll be able to apply as an adult, you'll be able to apply for 20,000. Thank you for your question. Diamond, do you have a question? I see your hand is raised.
So what happens to the loan if someone passes away?
That's a really great question. So all of your shares and all of your loans in the credit union are insured with an insurance company. If it is that you pass away and you have a loan on your account, we have this insurance called loan protection, meaning that in the event that you pass away, the insurance company would clear your loan obligations for you up to a certain value, and that value is $100,000. So in the event that you pass, once you provide the relevant documentation, or your parents provide the relevant documentation, we would be able to submit that claim to the insurance company, and the insurance company will clear up the application for you. That's a really great question. Thank you for asking. Amisha, I see your hand is raised as well.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to ask, right? When all are giving out loans, right? And somebody come for a loan, do you all give loans like for part it out like for need or for business or something like that?
Thank you for your question. That's a really great question as well. So loans are available for a variety of purposes and Antilles. It can be to purchase a home, to purchase a vehicle. It can even be something as simple as to rally through the fund. So you need to buy groceries, but you don't have the amount that you would need. You can apply for a small loan, a soft loan, to meet that obligation as well. So there's no specific set amount. There's no specific period. We give loans for a variety of purposes. It's not necessarily one thing that we give loans for. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you so much for asking. Any other questions? Yes, Diamond.
What if the loan is overdue, like the year is up? Is there any consequences attached to it?
Thank you for your question. The major consequence is that you may not have any more savings, because if we have not received repayment towards the loan and we've tried to contact you on all of the occasions, at least your parents, we will try to contact you on multiple occasions. We will send you letters, we will call you via phone or email or anything, and we don't get any response, then we may need to use your savings to clear your debt. Thank you for your question. Amisha, your hand is raised.
Yes, sir. My hand is raised. I just wanted to know, right? If you take a car from the Antilles Credit Union, right, and the car crashed, you have to get back your money for the car or not?
Thank you for your question. With the vehicle loans, we are only in charge of financing the purchase of the vehicle. The maintenance is up to you or your parent. So in the event that the car is crashed, once you have a vehicle, it must be insured to be able to drive on the nation's roads. Your insurance would be able to assess your claim there and be able to give you some compensation. Thank you for your question. Christian, you have a hand raised?
Yes, sir. Excuse, sir.
Yes,
How many loans do Antilles Credit Union give out for the year?
that is a really great question, and also a question I don't have the answer to on hand. Every year at our annual general meeting, we have a brochure that tells all of the amount of loans that we give, but also the value in which we give. So what I will encourage you to do, if you or your parent wants to find out, you can come down to the office and you can ask for a brochure. We have that information in the brochure. Thank you for your question. Amisha, we have time for 2 more questions.
Yes, sir. My next question was, when you reach the age of 18, right, and you have to come and you want to get a loan, you have to bring your parents with you, since them is the one who signed the book and get the account open for you.
That's a really great question. Thank you for asking. So once you reach the age of 18, it means that you are now a legal adult. So you would be able to do business for yourself. However, if you are in school still, whether you are in upper 6 or 6th form, or whether you are a university student, your parent could still be able to apply for that service for you. But what we would advise is that once you reach the age of 18 and you have that conversation with your parents, you can actually transfer from the youth program to the adult membership, so you can reap greater benefits. You can apply for things like student loans, because student loans is actually something that's really interesting. And I would advise that your parents look on our website for that information. But once you reach the age of 18, your parents should sign off on the application for loans, because at the end of the day, as an 18-year-old, you may not be employed, and your parent may be the one in charge of the responsibility of repaying that loan. So with doing the loan without their knowledge, it may be not the best. So yes, thank you for your question. Christian, your hand was raised.
So I have a next question before Christian asks his question.
Sure, no problem. Go ahead.
How many members are on the board of Antilles Credit Union?
Really great question. So our board comprises of 12 persons. 6 sit at the executive level. So the president, the vice president, secretary, the assistant secretary, and the treasurer and the assistant treasurer. And the remaining 6 will be directors. So we have a 12-member board. Thank you for that question. Christian, your hand is still raised.
Yes, sir. What days can you take out a loan?
What? Sorry, repeat that question for me.
What days can you take out a loan? Does it have a specific day?
Oh, thank you for the question. So you can apply for a loan at any period of time. We are open Monday to Friday from 8 to 4:30. In terms of the granting of loans, the credit committee is the committee that's responsible for the granting of the loans. So they would need to sign off on the approvals, and they meet every Monday to approve those loans. But you can apply for the loan at any date. If it's within your shares, you may be able to get the loan the same day as well. Thank you for your question. Last question, Amisha.
Yes, sir. One thing. How much interest do you all give on a loan?
Thank you very much for your question. So because we have a variety of loans available, the interest rates differ across the different loan categories. So personal loans across the board are 1% on the reducing balance. And what that means is that it just takes 1% of the balance you have on the loan at the end of the month. So if your loan is $1,000, your interest is $10. Once you make a payment towards your loan, it goes up to $900. It will be 1% of $900 at the next month. And that just shows that the amount, your interest goes down every month as you pay towards your loan. We have different loans as well. We have mortgages, we have vehicles, we have the computer loans for YDP students as well. And the percentages differ. So if your parents are interested in applying for a loan, they can again visit our website. We have all of the information with regard to the loan application, as well as a calculator that would be a guide to the repayment options. The calculator is just a guide, it's not the definitive percentage. Thank you for your question. Great, thank you all for your participation today so far. I'm really happy, and I'm glad that we had those questions at the end. It shows that you all are really thinking about what it means to be financially responsible and financially healthy. And I want to encourage you to keep learning more. Next week, we are in the final stages. Next week is our final session, and I'm happy about that, but I'm also quite sad because I love doing these outreach with you. So next week, we'll talk about understanding your financial reality. We'll also talk about planning for your financial futures. And we will generally just have an open floor discussion where we have been giving you a lot of information over the last 3 weeks. It's time for you to give us information and to ask as many questions as you possibly can. Right? So next week's session is going to be really interesting. It's going to be vibes. So I would want you to keep in connection with us, stay in contact, and we would look forward to next week's session. So as we enter this session, again, I want to thank you all so much for being here. I want to thank you all for your participation. It's been really, really great so far. I've really loved the discussions that we've been having over the last 3 weeks, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. So with that in mind, I want to wish you all a great Saturday. I know it's a bit overcast, at least from my house. It's a bit overcast, but I want you to continue to be safe, and I want you to enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Bye, sir. See ya next week for the last week, and actually stay safe, you too.
All right, good, no problem. Thank you so much.
Bye, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.